Hello, welcome back to my channel. Here to help you make it rain. Today I am covering the topic of how to start your Etsy business in 2024. I spent a lot of time, like I said, I started my company in 2022, very tail end, but really sales were starting in January. I was able to build my business to 140,000 of revenue, and I'm just going to walk through exactly how I would do it if I was starting again in 2024. So let's get into it. Step number 1, research and picking your niche. I like to think of myself as a visionary. Can't even say it without a straight face. I like to think of myself as a visionary in the sense of like, there are many types of people that are doing print on demand for all different types of reasons. And I think that like the steps that you take is really dependent on like what your goals are. I think that there are multiple different paths you can kind of take. Like I mentioned a little bit, like if you are, I think there's a huge market for this for people that are like their own small content creators and they have people in their channel that like want to support them, but they're not monetized on certain platforms, but they want to kind of like have people be able to support them and wear their merch and whatever. So if you're in that bucket where you are your own niche, you probably don't need to do that much research. You're probably just like, hey, I know who I am, what I do. I have a designer that I'm working with. I have these designs. Maybe you're just so basic that you want to be able to be like, here's my name on a t-shirt, whatever. So I would say if you don't already have a niche, I would just do your research or internal thinking on where you think you can add value. I'm going to do a follow-up episode on the tools and the software that I use to basically do my research. One being Everbee. But we'll get into that later. But do a little deep internal thought of what is it that you have your own unique perspective of or that you think works well. So for me, I knew that I wanted to choose a niche that I could relate to, I could have fun designing, and ideally, I'd find myself in a position where people were ordering multiple. So that's not always going to be the case, but I would say do your research. Are you a nurse and you're constantly seeing all these fun nurse t-shirts, but you think, hey, I could do that better? Like, do we have this idea that could make sense and kind of pop off? Are you a mom of like hockey kids and you're just not able to ever find the right type of hockey gear for other moms? And this is something that's been brought up. If you don't already have that idea, go to the internet and start kind of looking at different trends of what's kind of happening. I'm somebody that likes to follow celebrities. I'm hearing a lot about like mob wife aesthetic and clean girl energy is out, which I'm like tragic about. But there's always going to be something that could make sense. So we'll go over like that research segment later, but there are some really great tools like Everbee where you can actually go on and get traffic estimates of who's buying what's the search volume of certain things in case you have an idea. And that could be on the theme of like, are you going to have a fishing theme or are you going to have a product specific theme where you do tumblers all under the sun or you do baby blankets, or do you want to do personalized things, right? Like that's its own type of beast. So spend some time understanding what you want to do and know that you can always pivot. Like you can always kind of change what you're thinking because it is low barrier to entry, as I've mentioned. So that's what step 1 is. Step 2 is going to be set up the business pieces. Etsy is really great if you're wanting to start on Etsy, where you can just start selling with your social security number, and that's how it all gets passed through from like a tax perspective. However, if you are going into this and you're like, I am so committed to making this work and I want to be protected, or I want to like have some of things be separate, and I know that like I want a little bit of space between me and kind of like this business, just so it's like very clear of what's business and what's personal, make sure you just spend a little bit of time setting up that business element. This is something that I did. I did go ahead and like set up an LLC. I did go ahead and like get a bank account set up to keep my expenses separate. I did open a business credit card. I did these things beforehand or like really early on, so it was easier for me to like stay committed. For myself, it was like, well, man, I have a business now. Like, I have to keep on track here, but go at your own pace too. And just know that, like, if there was a time to get those things set up, getting them done and out of the way early is always great. And it at least helped me keep everything kind of clear. So I had a separate business Gmail. I did set up an LLC. So in California, I had to go through all those different steps. I had to go open a business banking account, nothing super crazy, but note that if you do open a bank account, some of them will cost a monthly fee until you reach a certain amount of revenue. So do your own research on if that's something that makes sense for you. And same thing with the credit card. This is an area where if you are going to get into print on demand, this is like one of those hacks that I significantly would urge and recommend you do, is get a business credit card. And the main reason is for points. So for example, in months where it was like high seasonality for me, I may have been doing $20,000 of revenue in a month. I think that was like my highest one, was like 21,000 of revenue. Of course, that includes shipping and taxes and all those things, but that means that I'm buying at least $10,000 worth of product. Of course, I'm not saying here I'm paying $10,000 and whatnot. It's like the money comes in, I pass it out. It's this like arbitrage, all happening on a credit card, and I'm not touching money, but you can get the points on all of those things. So even though I'm not actually like, I'm not having to upfront spend this money, as the sales come in and they're paid for, you can get the points on all of those things. So towards the end of the year, you'll be sitting on all these points that if you hadn't had a credit card, you just would lose that extra money. It's not going to be potentially life-changing, but it could be hundreds to thousands of dollars of point credits. Just because you're already spending the money, you might as well, I keep hearing this, but like let your money work for you, you know? So set up a credit card if you think this is something that you're really dedicated to. Understanding that's a lot of admin stuff to work on, but I would recommend it. The next step after you find your niche and kind of understand your business pieces is finding your production partner. And that's kind of like its own topic, but you'll hear of a handful of really popular sites out there. I would say above and beyond, the most popular is going to be Printify. One thing to note about Printify is it's not actually like Printify, the company, does not produce and print your products. They basically connect you with a network of manufacturers in the United States, Canada, all over, that you can then use to print your products. So they're an aggregator and like a warehouse, an online warehouse of kind of like all these different types of people that do the same thing. So if I was a manufacturer in Idaho, I could list my services on Printify, have all the integrations happen to ship the product. So it's a way to find manufacturers and set things up, but you're not actually interfacing directly with your manufacturers. So Printify is by far and above the most common one. They have production partners all over. You can kind of go into that platform, as you can see, and kind of see what products they're offering. They have probably the widest catalog out of anybody. Constantly new things are being added. There are a lot of really good companies that list in here, and you can see, what I love about this is you can see the reviews for different production partners, so you know kind of what you're getting into, as well as their production timelines. So I always like to choose production partners, whether it be Printify or other platforms that are in the United States, because I want things to get there faster, and try to provide the best experience that I can for my customers. One thing I'll note here that's really nice is that, let's say I'm utilizing a production partner that is in the United States. If there are other production partners in Printify's network that are international, and you get an international sale. I remember the first day I got my first international sale, and I was like, oh my God, like, did I just go international? And it was true, I did. But you can basically turn on this feature where it would just like auto forward. So instead of like buying the product in the US and then shipping it to Canada, for example, they would just reroute that to a different manufacturer in Canada. So the shipping costs are cheaper, and probably the shipping times are shorter. So really great platform to work with. So that's one option, is using these like aggregators where a bunch of different manufacturers can be supported there. The other option is to go and find more of like a smaller print manufacturer that you can kind of have a bit more communication with and get a little bit more just answers with. So I like another production partner called Print and Mint. They are located in Arizona. I love that because it allows me to basically like estimate like how long is it going to take for things to get somewhere. It's based in the US. A lot of the products will annotate if they're like made in the US or partially sourced in the US, which is something that's important to me. And I think a big pro of finding more of like a manufacturing partner like Print and Mint, for example, is you do get to have direct communication with that team. Printify, if something happens and like something's lost or delayed or whatever, you send an email, or not even an email, you send a case to Printify, who then has to contact the manufacturer. There's a time lapse. It takes a lot of time. You just don't ever really get, it's just harder to get communication. What's nice with Print and Mint, or an example like Print and Mint, is that I have that team that I can say, support, like, can you help me? Or can I get an update? Obviously, you don't want to be too aggressive, but it's been helpful to get those questions answered in a more personable touch. So choose the print manufacturer that you want, or the printing platform that you want based off of your needs and what you want to sell. Because things like Printify, you're going to have so many more options. But if you know kind of what you want, you can find that through something that's a little bit more like local or more small business-esque, then you have options to do so. So that is step 3, finding your print production partner. Then designing, and these can go kind of hand in hand, but find out how you want to do your designs. As I mentioned at the top of the video, you may be somebody that has a designer in your network, and you're just like, you just need to find somebody to produce your stuff, right? Like this may be your kind of, you may be an artist and you already have your art and you just need some place to throw it on. But if you're not, and you're like, no, I don't actually create, you'll need to have some way to design. So one of the main ways that I've done all of my designs was through Canva, which is basically this design platform that's on a subscription model. They have tons of different templates that you can create and edit and switch around to basically produce your designs. You can also utilize sites like Creative Fabrica, where designs are completely already made and you just pay for the rights to use them. So if you're not the most creative person and you do just want, something else to kind of supplement your shop with, you can utilize things like Creative Fabrica as well. So just find what's right for you if you already have an idea to kind of go off of. There are shirts and t-shirts and mugs and everything that just have text on them that sell super well. So find who you want to produce your product and what you want to put on the product. So that's step 3 and 4. Then you need to pick your sales vehicle. So I think a lot of people think like print on demand is just like Shopify and Etsy, which I think that those are the most popular ones, and there are direct integrations with all of these different software. But there are other options too, right? Like I'm constantly seeing on like Facebook groups of people that are like creating these like niche, nuanced Facebook groups. I was in one the other day that was like Western. And it's these women that are creating these like really cool designs in the Western country niche. And they just open up these Facebook groups, invite all of their friends, who then invite other friends, and they're doing more of these like manual orders. So they're posting up a listing and they're saying, hey, give me your orders by 5 p.m. Shipping takes about this many days. And they're doing it more of this like manual one-off. So there's tons of options. Again, like that means that it's more manual in the sense of like you still need to like process all those orders individually. But if that's something that like you would rather start with, as opposed to like creating a whole website or launching an Etsy store, and you do want to have it be more manual and like more hands-on and more personal, that's an option that you can do. You can also look into shipping fulfilled by Amazon. Obviously it's not going to be like a one size fits all where you can just do one-off orders, but I'm pursuing this now where I'm going to say, can I order like 50 of these if they're best sellers, and can I ship them to Amazon and then see if there's a market on Amazon? Like there are all types of ways that you can kind of spin this off. So by far and above, Etsy print on demand is huge, or building your own Shopify site and linking things through there are going to be number 1 and 2. But if you want to just like dabble a little bit more slowly, there are other options that you can pursue as well. So pick your sales vehicle. The last part being creating the products, listing those products wherever you want to list them, marketing them in whatever way you want to market them, and make sure people are finding things. And then doubling down on what's working and basically finding what's successful and adding fuel to that fire, and then potentially like trimming the fat of things that aren't working that well. Anywhere in business, you're going to find this to be the case. Like, use the data to direct you on what's working, because if you're seeing like this design is crushing it, like I'm selling multiple a week, like this is popping off, then find more things similar to that and continue to fuel the fire. So there's plenty of steps to get you there, but if I was starting in 2024, that's the steps that I would think through while I'm ideating. If there are any questions, please hit me up in the comments. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and hopefully can help you make it rain. Cool. See ya. Bye.